Hey, welcome everyone to the Future of Testing. I'm Joe Colantonio, founder of TestGuild. I'm going to be serving as one of your MCs and co-hosting along with Dave and Applitools for today's session. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
Good. Hi. Hey, I'm Dave Piacente, Senior Manager of DevRel and Community at Applitools. Happy to be here and to get the band back together with you, Joe. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I don't know if people know this, but I first met Dave on my podcast in 2014. And I think you might actually be the first person that actually told me about Applitools, which I think is kind of cool, kind of ironic that we're here right now.
I'll just close the loop. I love it. Okay.
Absolutely. And awesome. Good to see a lot of people here already. So hello to Patricia, Aneen. Hey, Chris Tripper's in the house. Awesome. All right, great. We want to make this as interactive as possible. And the way to do it is use the chat and ask questions. So I can tell already it's going to be an awesome event. So hello, Sadir, Frederick, Neil. All right, everyone's coming in. Great to have you all here. I'm really excited about it. As I mentioned, I first heard about Applitools from Dave, and then that led me to actually interviewing Adam Carmi in 2015. And he's one of the co-founders of Applitools. And after finding out more about it, I need to get this into the place I was working at, which was a radiology medical device. And I was blown away by the types of things Applitools can help me with. And it's a bunch of things. It's grown since then. So Dave, I'm really excited to learn more about how it's grown and some new announcements and features I think you all have been working on.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick aside. For me, it wasn't about how can I get this tool in the company that I work at. It was how can I go work at that company? And that's what I ended up doing. But yeah, we do have a huge announcement. And there's two things I want to say. One is the intent of this event to me is that I think that we're in this amazing inflection point in history with test automation. There's some amazing things coming, and there's amazing things that Applitools is doing, but there's amazing things that people in the industry are doing. And so this event is to help bring all of those things together, put it into the limelight, and help everyone share and try to bring everyone along to make sure everyone can improve and become more awesome with their test automation. So that's one. And the other one is that there is an announcement for an awesome new product that we've been working on. So we would like to officially announce that we have an integration with Preflight and Eyes. So now anyone can, oh, is that applause? Ooh, I like that. Now anyone can author tests in seconds and have access to Visual AI and run those tests as needed, on demand, on a schedule, at scale, regardless of your technical background. So we're making it a democratized offering so that anybody can take advantage of it, not just people who are slinging code. So
no, I love it. And I love how they keep innovating. You know, when I started, they've really grown, and now it really has become a full visual AI platform. And, it's helped me with functional testing, visual testing, web and mobile UIX testing, cross-browser testing, cross-device testing, responsive web, PDF testing.
You're just saying everything. I like it. Yeah, all the things.
Now, it's pretty crazy. And it's like even more now. So it's like, it's a true platform. So I'm really excited by how much it's grown. And I love everyone that works there. Everyone I meet is really cool. And that to me is one indicator of where I invest things. So
amazing. Yes, truly. It's like the culture certainly speaks volumes about not just the products we make and the things we do, but it's like it's inside the company, and we're making it as infectious as we can and try to bring it out to the rest of the testing industry. And just the last thing I want to say about that is I just think that we're trying to rethink how we can do testing so we can be more efficient. And so that's some other things we do, not just trying to pivot into being a platform, but trying to actually say, let's look at fundamental first principles and build solutions and help people understand what are the important parts. And we can throw away the stuff that no longer works, no longer serves us, and focus on the things that do. So
100%. So I can tell it's going to be a great event already. The chat is blowing up. So we have Minez, Corando, Pierre, awesome to have you all here. Keep it coming. Just a quick housekeeping before we really get into it. Anand, I just want to go over it. There's actually some cool things built into this platform with the Airmeet. If you need closed caption, you can enable it down below. Also on the right-hand side, there's a bunch of session controls. So you can see the chat, QA, polls, resources, and more. And also make sure to ask your questions throughout. And so we can ask them when the speaker is live with us. Finally, the folks at Applitools are always open to feedback, so make sure you leave your feedback after the event as well. And just check out all the types of things going on. You have a schedule button, leaderboards, notifications, and we'll help you along the way. But a lot of stuff built in here, and also resources tab. And me and Dave will be here to help you get the most out of the event as we get into it. So thank you all for joining and using the chat and starting it off really, I think, interactively and really cool already.
Yes, very much so.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. I have to beat that somehow, but I don't have
you have the whole rest of the event to figure it out, how to beat that, top that.
Awesome. So I think it's probably time to get into the first opening keynote. And so the opening keynote is about reimaging test automation with AI with Anand. If you don't know, Anand is an awesome software quality evangelist. He has over more than 20 years of experience, I think, in software testing. And from my experience, is really passionate about shipping quality products and specializing in product quality strategy and execution. And he's one of the go-to contributors I follow for Selenium and the Appium project. And he's built a number of open source tools related to software testing. And as you can tell, he looks probably very familiar too, because he regularly speaks at all the events and writes on a lot of related testing topics. So really excited to have you here, Nan, to kick off the day right. Welcome.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Future of Testing. Quickly sharing my screen. And I think we are on. So welcome, and thank you very much, Joe, for the lovely and kind introduction. Really appreciate it. It's great to be introduced by you. Let's get to the topic today, reimagining test automation with AI. Enough has been spoken about me. I'm not going to do that anymore. Just pointing you to my LinkedIn and Twitter, or X as we now say. Please do get in touch with me for follow-up conversations. I would love to do that. Now, I'm going to take you through a journey of where test automation has been and where I see the future to be. And let's start off with a nice cooling waterfall, because that's how at least I started my career in software testing. For those who do not know what waterfall methodology is, it just makes me feel old. But it has been a very important part of how software development was done. Predominantly various different stages, well-defined stages, and very defined, focused work happening in those stages. Unfortunately, what it also meant, it is going to take a long time to get software delivery done. And the way things were structured, pretty much it meant throw over the wall kind of approach. A lot of pros and cons, but it got a lot of good software out for users back in the days as well. After a long time in waterfall, we moved into the agile and extreme programming space, where we got the values of how to deliver software quickly for our users and get feedback from them to iterate over what new features and capabilities we can build into the system, into the product for their usage. So the stages of your SDLC remain pretty much the same, but it is really shortened, and it's much more collaborative way of working now. The key aspect of this is it keeps repeating, where you have sprint over sprint or iteration over iteration of very quick releases happening to production to your users, so they can get value of your product, you can get feedback how your product is working, and you can continue building value on top of that. To take it to the next level, we also had continuous delivery. So how can you take this aspect of doing quick releases, but what are the mechanics of getting feedback from your users, how well your product is working or not, and what is not working well, what is working well, incorporating that into your requirement cycle so that you can iterate over this. So the agile way of working, continuous delivery, they go very well hand in hand together, because the thought process is pretty much very similar. Now, what this means though, from a testing perspective, it would be very difficult to imagine anyone not working in some form of agile in their organizations right now. Which means as testers, we need to be thinking how to best contribute and ensure the product quality is of the highest level in our processes, practices, tooling, in our way of working. So from agile testing perspective, to become a little bit more explicit, if you start off on a new project, the first iteration or sprint zero is where you sort of understand what is going to be your first set of requirements, your user stories. And you also start thinking about, based on the type of product, what type of automation do I need to have? You strategize on that. You start building your base framework or getting your tooling in place. That is your groundwork that is being done in iteration zero. As you move to the next iteration, you've also started now working on testing and automating those user stories that are being implemented in that iteration, which of course follows the iteration planning meeting. But you are also diverted or distracted because you need to analyze what requirements are coming up in the next iteration or the next sprint. And this cycle continues as you move on from iteration 2 onwards. You are taking more on your shoulders. You are now doing a demo of what has happened in the past iteration. You are doing a demo of that. You are doing an iteration planning meeting. You might have some leftovers from the past iteration stories. You're trying to finish that off. The current iteration stories are coming into play in development. You need to start testing on those. You need to start doing automation. And of course, you need to analyze the stories of your next iteration, your next sprint. And this cycle continues, sprint over sprint, iteration over iteration. Now, what becomes very important from agile and extreme programming thought process is the concept of automation pyramid, where we are saying, okay, what are the different types of automation that can be done? It is not just UI automation or end-to-end automation. There are various different types of automation which has different value. Each type is very important, of course, as applicable for the product under test, but you could be contributing to various different layers of this automation pyramid. In most cases, in large products, I have seen the system test or end-to-end test, workflow test, acceptance test, they are done by testers. The lower layers of the pyramid, which are more technology focused, the contract test, component test, API test, unit test, these are done by our developers. Of course, it's great if some role is taking more responsibility than the others, but reality is complex, software is complex, it is huge, and one role cannot really do everything. So you need specialists at different parts to collaborate and work together to get the best value out. But this aspect of working in a sprint model or iteration model and doing so many different activities is very complex. It can get pretty stressful for the kind of changes that keep happening on a sprint by sprint basis. Now, this is where we are, right? This is how agile testing also works. Nothing very new in this. But the automation approach that we follow, unfortunately, has not really evolved too much. And let's take an example of what does the software testing lifecycle mean when you compare it with waterfall versus agile. In this particular case, your test design, you do that in waterfall as well as do that in agile. But in case of agile, you're repeating this for every sprint. That means you need to think about test maintenance, test designing, every sprint. It's not just one thing done and dusted and you can focus on the next thing. This is going to happen sprint over sprint. And that could make it a burden. When it comes to test implementation, automation implementation, again, you would do that in waterfall as well as in agile. But again, talking about the test automation pyramid, there's a lot of type of automation, which again needs to be repeated. You need to keep enhancing your code base for every sprint based on the changes that are happening in agile, which could again make it quite a burden on the team. What good is a test if you don't have proper validations? And again, automation means there needs to be validation. But when you're doing this in agile over and over again, for a constantly evolving product, your automation maintenance efforts can be quite high. When you run the test, you need to analyze and maintain the results. And because your tests are changing so often, your product is changing so often, which means your analysis cycle is also going to need more time to think about what is really happening with your product. And last bit is scaling your execution. Your product is not used just on one device or one browser. It is going to be used by your users across any type of browser or device that is available. And that means your scale validation, if your product works correctly across all of these, in waterfall might actually be easier because you've got a focused testing cycle. In agile, you have to keep repeating the scaling aspect every sprint to make sure everything is fine. And that scale, again, can become quite a burden in Agile. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a huge proponent of Agile, and I think it brings tremendous value. The challenge I'm trying to highlight over here is automation in Agile teams is challenging. It is not as easy as we think it is, and it needs a much more focused and better effort. So what is next? We've got various different types of frameworks and tools from automation perspective. What is next? Well, luckily, we are at the future of testing or future of test automation. What can be the future? How can automation be made easier to overcome the challenges that we have thought about, that we have discussed in your software testing life cycle? And the key to this is your AI-powered automation. AI is not just a buzzword anymore. It is a reality. It can add a lot of value to what you're doing, to how you're approaching things. Now, to show you the power of AI, enough of slides, let's see a demo. In this demo, I'm going to do live demos. I'm going to show you a couple of examples quickly. I have a simple Selenium Java-based automation going on right now. It's an e-commerce application that I'm testing. A simple test about adding a product to cart. The test completes very quickly. But now, if I want to run this test against a new build, because a new user story is done, I'm getting a new deployment happening, and hey, the test failed. What happened over here? Let's look at it. It had just passed, but it failed now, and it failed because, whoa, our most beloved no such element exception. Now, this is not a problem of the tool. My product has changed. It is saying the locator is not available anymore. Or it could be my application is slow in responding in rendering, which meant the test is not tuned to that performance and it did not find the element it needed to interact with. Hence, the test failed. Now, that's no good. The users are going to use your application to search for products, add the product to cart, and make a purchase. Do they really care about locators? I don't think so. So why should our automation care about that? So let me show you a different example of how you could actually make your automation more intelligent. Now the test is running, but in this case, the browser is not even going to launch on my machine because I'm using a different mechanics, a different way of executing these tests. These tests are using Applitools Visual AI integrated as part of it. And what this means is when the test is running, I don't see the browser launch in this case, but I see the results have started coming into the Applitools dashboard. This is a test running right now. I am in India, so that's why it's 8:48 p.m. The test was supposed to run on only one browser, but what I'm seeing over here is that the test is actually running on 3 different browsers. It is running on the Applitools execution cloud, and the test has completed, but it is unresolved. It is saying unresolved because Applitools says any difference that is found as part of execution, we don't know if that difference is because of a bug in your product or your test is outdated in context of your product, because your product is constantly evolving, right? Your test could very easily be outdated. So Applitools cannot take a decision if the difference found is because of a product issue or the test issue because it is out of sync of with the product. So what this means is now I'll be able to click on any of these test results and see in this particular case, I had 3 tests. 2 of these seem to be passed because it is green, and 1 has a difference found. Let's inspect what this really means. On the left-hand side, when I clicked on the thumbnail, I have the baseline. On the right-hand side, I have the checkpoint or the screen that was captured when the test ran. And my test was coded with saying that because I have got a lot of dynamic aspects, dynamic content on the page, I want to use different types of AI algorithms to validate if everything is working fine. So my filter criteria on the left-hand side could be dynamic. based on the type of product or the quantities could change. So I'm using a layout algorithm which says I don't care about the content differences. As long as the structure is the same, everything is good. In case of a specific product, maybe I have this product is going to be always there. I have control over that data and everything should be as expected for that particular region. That's why I'm using strict. So strict is anything different to the human eyes, highlight that as a difference to me. And the key thing to remember here is that this is not using pixel comparison. Pixel comparison doesn't work even for static content. One pixel difference can give you false positives. But AI-based algorithms can give you that control to say, here are the differences based on what the user can see, and hence that is an important difference reported to you, and you can take a decision on that. So in this particular case, I have got a combination of regions selected to do the validation in the best possible way. And based on that, everything is fine. There is no difference found. I go to the next screen. Over here as well, everything seems to be fine because there is no difference reported. I go to the third screen. In this case, because it's a sample test, the screen is the same, but I'm using a different algorithm for comparison. If I zoom in, you see that the default text that is there in search box is different. And now that could be a bug in the product, or that could be a new functionality of your product that the text has changed. So the user is going to see different information. But now this is a decision that you need to take because you are part of the team and you can decide if this is a product issue or a test issue. And accordingly, you need to update that. Now, some more insights that you can get is if you enable root cause analysis, you can click on the difference and see the differences that are there in the DOM and CSS, why this particular issue was highlighted. So it makes it easier for your developers to take decisions on this. In fact, I've seen developers who are the ones taking a look at these results because they are shifting left. They are taking more ownership of quality. They are going to take a look at the results, take decisions on those, update the product because a defect was found, or fix the test because a test needs to be evolved, and accordingly fix the issue. If this is a defect, I could report this as a defect in my defect management tool. Content, if I can spell correct, is incorrect, and I can create a defect in my defect management tool automatically. Okay, so that is the power of AI using algorithms that you can programmatically add in your test execution. You can get the validations over here, and a simple click of button to say thumbs up means I want to update my baseline. Thumbs down means I'm failing the test because there was a defect found. Takes decisions on what is happening. But this is not the only thing that was very interesting over here. Remember I said the test failed on local. We saw that no such element found, but the test passed when it ran in Applitools. I know it passed because it took all the screenshots that were required by it, and I was able to compare using that. So I know the test completed. But how come the test failed when I was running it on local browser? How did it pass when I was running it in the Applitools execution cloud? The reason is this execution cloud has got self-healing capabilities. When you run the test in the execution cloud and your test requires certain locators which are not there anymore, Applitools will try to find out, is there any alternate locator that you can use instead to take a decision on your test and continue with the execution. And in this case, you see the magic wand over here, which indicates that yes, the test ran on the execution cloud and it was self-healed. When I click on this, I see the original locator that was there in my test and the new locator that was used for execution, and the test completed. So with self-healing capabilities, we are able, and visual AI, we are able to focus on the things that matter to the user. You're not focused on locators anymore, and that adds a huge value to your execution. Also, we are able to use the ultra-fast grid, which means though I ran the test on only one browser on my local, in the execution cloud as well, it ran on only one browser, but we were able to scale that execution using the ultra-fast grid. In my case, I have given it 3 different browser combinations where I want to do the validations, and automatically I see the results of validations from all of these over here. The test ran only once, but the visual validations were done for all the different browsers automatically. With AI capabilities, if I say this is actually a defect, I want to fail the test, you will see over here automatically Applitools is going to apply that decision to the rest of the test and take a decision accordingly for you. You do not have to go through all your different screens where the same problem exists and repeat your decisions on those. It saves you a lot of time. There's a saying, finding a needle in the haystack is difficult, and absolutely true. Finding issues in your product is very difficult. It is challenging because your products are complex. But what Applitools AI can do for you is automatically find those needles for you in the haystack, present them to you, and you take a decision which of those needles were expected, which are unexpected. You have the power in your hands to take the decision based on the context of your application. Applitools cannot take that decision for you. Okay. Now, with this execution cloud, when you run the tests over here, you will also be able to download the video of the execution, the WebDriver logs, console logs, and so on. And hence, you'll be able to get much more rich information what is going on with your application. If accessibility is important, you will also get contrast advisor validations reported from Applitools as part of your test execution automatically. And what that would mean is based on level AA, AAA, and WCAG level 2.0, 2.1, you will be able to see the violation issues that exist in your product from a contrast perspective to see how your product is behaving over there. Okay, so if I click on any of these, I'll select accessibility. Okay, some network latency issues. Oh, there we go. And over here, you will see the highlighted boxes where you'll be able to see actual contrast versus expected. Now, this is an indication for you, so you can again focus on things that matter. Applitools is not saying this is a problem. It is just reporting where the issues are. And you take a decision how to make your product quality better. Now, what does this really mean? Why is this demo important? If you think about it, I'm going to go to code now. I'm showing you Java-based code, Selenium Java-based code. This applies to any different type of automation that you're doing, whether it is scripted or non-scripted way of automating. Your typical automation cycle is, I have a set of test cases that someone has given to me or I have identified. Based on that, I'm going to implement my automated tests. And in this particular case, the test is actually very simple. I go to a particular site, I click on a product, and from that click, I'm going to assert after adding the product to cart if the cart has updated or not. So what you see over here is, though this is not a proper page object pattern or any pattern based implementation, it's a test implemented completely in the test block itself. But you are seeing over here, a lot of this code requires locators. I've got locators all over the place. I'm writing a lot of assertions, but the assertions are very basic assertions. I'm seeing over here only if the product name is correct. I'm seeing if the shoe name is correct based on what I have selected. I'm seeing if I add the product to cart, is my cart updated? But your product is much more complex than that. But your test is not doing justice to the complexity of your product. Instead, if you use Applitools, it's the same test, but now what I have over here is the assertions have gone away, and I'm using a combination of AI algorithms or direct AI algorithms, as in the last example, where I'm saying I'm telling Applitools, you do the validation for me. I don't care. I don't want to write the assertions. I'm just going to use my test to do the interactions with the product, to enter information or get information back as required to proceed with the navigation and the scenario implementation. But all the validations, I'm using Applitools for this. And hence, because of this, we see the test failed over here when I ran it last. Even though I ran it in the execution cloud, the test failed because it had visual differences found. And the visual differences also, you can see the results of all the executions for all the different browsers over here with the link to the dashboard. How many validations were there, how many passed, how many failed, how many were new, how many were not captured. any accessibility issues or contrast advisor issues found, all of that can be retrieved and shown to the user over here. And as a framework, it is your responsibility how to take that and do assertions on it or update your own custom reports based on the information presented. But now with this test that we ran, we saw that we are now able to cover the full screen validation. I'm not just talking about is this particular one product there or the product name exists or if my cart has got updated or not. I'm actually validating the full screen over here. And when I validate this full screen, it has a lot of value because what this automatically means, my test, a simple add to cart test is now validating much more functionality of my product automatically. I do not need more tests over here implemented to go through the similar set of screens or the same screens focused on different parts of the functionality and doing the validations over there. And that too, you would not be able to validate all the different possibilities that can happen anyway, like changes of color, change of layout, missing images or so on. It is very difficult to capture those and validate those using standard automation tools. And that can become a huge challenge. So this is a very important thought process now that we need to think about. If simply integrating Applitools Visual AI in your automation can ease a lot of pain, and that integration is also extremely easy. I'm using a Gradle build file over here. All I'm saying over here is I want to use the Applitools SDK. Applitools SDK actually has Selenium or APM as part of it, depending on the SDK. But I wanted to use a different version of Selenium for some specific reason. That's why I'm doing this as a different way. Otherwise, I didn't really need this. I could have just, included the dependency like this, and I automatically get Selenium. So my dependencies are also getting cleaned up. I do not need multiple versions of those. Now with this integration, my test implementation is exactly the same. But what I'm doing, I'm removing the assertions, adding visual validations over here. And second, because I'm doing visual validations, I can reduce the number of tests as well, because I don't need tests going through the same screens for the similar context and doing validations again separately. It is not going to add any value. So there's a very, I've heard this many times in the past. To reduce bugs in your product, you delete product code. You have less code in place, you'll be able to have reduce the number of defects. Test automation is also code. If you write less code, you'll be able to make your test more stable. Why so? Because I don't need as many number of locators to do all the validation that my screens require. AI is going to take care of the full screen validation for me, and I don't need to worry about that anymore. The only case when I will need locators is if I want specific regions to be validated using different algorithms. Otherwise, simply a call to eyes.check window is going to take care of the full screen validation for me automatically. That is the power of AI. So what does this mean? Using Applitools Visual AI, you'll be able to optimize your test case design. You can get higher test coverage by writing less code and automating fewer tests. Less tests, more coverage. Seems like a win-win situation to me. When it comes to implementing your tests, writing your tests itself, right? It is easier and faster to write these tests because now you don't need as many locators. You don't need to run the test multiple times because you've got so many locators. You don't have to write so many assertions, and you don't have to run it as many times to ensure each assertion is being captured well, is doing the job it is required to do. You can integrate Applitools with any automation tool. You don't have to change your automation tool to get the power of AI in your automation. The validation aspect is again very important, right? The AI-based validation, the AI algorithms, we spoke about strict and layout. There is also ignore, there is ignore colors. You can use a combination of these algorithms to get your functional and visual validation in place automatically without writing extra code for each validation that is there. A very important point to keep in mind whenever you're doing visual validation is supporting the dynamic content. Products are going to have dynamic data, dynamic content. It is going to be personalized. It is going to have different A/B experiments. That means your experience is going to change in your application. You need a validation tool that will support your product needs and work with dynamic data as well. Applitools also has capability to do A/B testing validation. So that also helps in the dynamic aspect of your application and does the validations automatically. And the key thing is the tool supports any different type of product, web, mobile web, Android, iOS, desktop applications, PDFs, images, does not matter. Whatever is seen on the screen, as long as you can take a screenshot, if Applitools does not have a SDK, it can do AI-based validation for you. That's a huge power you can get in your automation for any tool that you're using. The analysis and maintenance is again a very key aspect. You don't want to spend time finding all the issues that might exist in your product. With Applitools, if there are any differences reported, then you go to the dashboard, Applitools dashboard, and you focus only on the tests that have differences reported. You don't need to look at tests which are passing, because that is working as expected as per your choice of algorithms. So analysis and maintenance becomes very important. You can focus on differences that matter. You can take quick decisions about bugs and baselines, whether to update it or not. And also, you know your product quality immediately across all the different browsers and devices, which also brings us to the scaling and execution part. The AI-based execution, AI-based cross-browser testing using ultra-fast grid allows seamless scaling for you. And that is going to make it very easy. You don't have to wait till the end to figure out how your application renders in different browsers and devices. You don't have to run the test n number of times on each of those platforms just to see if everything is working fine. Ultra-fast grid with the self-healing capability of Execution Cloud can make your test more stable while getting you feedback from all the different types of browsers and devices that your product supports. And that can be a huge value add for any team that is doing automation. And you can very easily cover up on your automation backlog with this approach. Is that all though? Not really. There's also something very interesting coming very soon, and you will be hearing more about it in the very near future, and that is autonomous testing from Applitools. What we spoke about right now is writing your own scripts, coming up with your own test cases and adding AI power to it. But with autonomous testing, that job will also get much, much more easier for you. Tests will be identified and created for you, and you will be able to have an influence in updating it, evolving it, tweaking it, making it more contextual to your product. Autonomous testing will be the next game changer that is coming up very soon. So let's summarize now. We spoke about the software test lifecycle, but Applitools AI can really give you that edge and take you to the next cusp of evolution of your automation journey, where you can truly scale your automation for the fast needs of CI and CD and get feedback from automation on your product quality. Adding visual AI in each and every step of your SDLC is enabled by Applitools. Do take a look at that. The next thing that is important, what we spoke about, is the tooling. But a very important aspect is for us as humans to evolve as well. You cannot take the same approach that we took for waterfall and apply it to agile. It is creating a big mess. We saw some examples earlier today. We need to evolve this thought process. We need to think about what will be a better test strategy, quality strategy, automation strategy. Each three are different. Quality strategy is for the product. Testing strategy is more specifically for the test team in that sense. And automation is how you're going to do automation. But it does not really say what layer of automation we are talking about. What is your overall automation strategy? That needs to evolve. You cannot think of the same way of thinking of test cases and automating that as in the past. Tools have evolved. You need to leverage AI and get the power of the tools to make it easier for you and get more value for your team. Last thing, human mind is essential. AI is not replacing humans, hopefully not yet. But if we as humans evolve, we can leverage these tools in a better way and make our testing more productive, more optimized, and more fun while learning along the way about the new tools and technologies that are coming. I hope this gave you some interesting insights into how AI can really help in getting your automation to the next level. I hope we have some time for questions. Thank you. Okay, so let's see the questions. I'm going to go through them. There is a question. There is a lot of rumors about Cyprus going under. Is the age of Cyprus actually getting over? Is Playwright the next big thing? Not a question for this forum, probably. No, we are not experts in Cyprus.
Yeah. There's a lot of things on there, and I believe it's fine. So next question I think we really want to get to that I want to push to the stage is, with AI development, a lot of it, you work with a lot of open source, Selenium and Appium. Any thoughts on AI developments with open source testing tools?
There is a lot of work happening in the space, embedding AI in the open source testing tools, but I have not really come across, or rather, I have not used much of that yet. I am not the early adopter. I am the major adopter in various ways, if you think about it. So I'm hoping to hear more from you, what you have learned, how you have leveraged AI in open source. I would be keen to learn on that.
Nice. So next question, is codeless testing shifting to the approach when fast and agile lifecycle with a suite of Cypress or Playwright to handle with codeless can't handle? Or is it codeless only approach that you see as the future? So I guess more code versus codeless. What's the future that you see?
Yeah, I think it's an aspect of optimizing and getting the best value for your team. What is your existing product tech stack? What is the architecture of that product? How testable is it? That becomes a key aspect to determine how you are going to select your automation tools to get the kind of feedback. The key thing remains you want to get quick feedback from your automation, and you want to rely on your automation to say if a test passes, that functionality is good. I don't want to look at that manually again. If any automation tool can give you that type of guarantee, that's the best thing you can use.
Great answer, 100%. Boom. So another question by Ed. Thank you, Ed, for all your questions. With AI and training models, how can we ensure a company's IP is not compromised and have security breaches? I know a lot of people are bringing this in-house. Any thoughts on this?
Absolutely. I've seen this when I was doing a couple of webinars and research related to those webinars earlier this year regarding ChatGPT and Bard and so on. There is a lot of concern around that. See, any new technology is going to have challenges. It's going to have quirks. It's going to have backdoors where you could exploit it. So you have to be cautious when you're using a tool, understand what the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, where the gaps are, and use it in the right context. One example that I have given, I've used is I will not use company code and put it in ChatGPT and say, okay, how can I make this better? I'll try to generalize it. I'll try to remove the proprietary information out of it and give it only a specific block of code and say, okay, can you tell me what is wrong with this, right? So that's not the best way to use the technology, but that's the tester's approach to say, I want to reduce the risk of something leaking out. So how do you really approach that? You have to be careful about that. Don't just go and use anything and expose yourself, your internal IP on tools if you're not sure about it.
Absolutely. Next question. This is a good point. You probably get this asked all the time. Can the self-healing functionality incorrectly identify alternative selectors, thus allowing the test to pass when it should have failed? Is this possible, and how common is this?
It is. So self-healing, for that matter, is not a new thing if you look at it, right? It has been around for some time and various different ways to implement it. I have never used it because, again, I'm old-minded in that sense, right? Old school. I'm a tester. I don't want to just blindly use something because it's going to pass. So self-healing without the guarantee that the locator is or the element is exactly where it's supposed to be is a huge risk. But when you tie self-healing with visual validation, that risk goes away completely, because yes, I've clicked on a locator, but my visual validation is going to tell me if that element is in a different place. I ended up clicking on a different thing, or the layout is messed up, the user experience is messed up. I'm going to know that feedback as part of my test immediately. So even though my test passes the functional aspect, visual aspects, the user experience, Applitools is going to tell me. And that's the power of using self-healing with visual AI. Without visual AI, I'm a big skeptic. I have a huge skepticism around self-healing. And that's the another aspect I just want to add to that point, right? This is another aspect that as testers, we need to think differently. We cannot think of regression testing different from progression testing anymore. It is your application functionality. How can you best validate it? If you're running a test, you have to get the best value out of it. And visual AI can help get that value for you without getting into regression, progression type of thought process.
Absolutely. And I always say seeing is believing. So try it for yourself. I know Applitools has solutions to help you test faster or more effectively than ever you thought possible. And you actually see it in action. I think they just popped up a schedule now where you can actually check it out for yourself to see how this works and actually see how it works for you in your tech stack. So definitely take advantage of that. Next question is, I think you showed a lot of UI, but does this also work with mobile?
Right now, the self-healing from Applitools is for web only. But keep an eye out on the space. If you're interested in mobile, get in touch with us and we'll definitely work with you, let you know as soon as that is available. But right now it is only for web.
Great. Is visual validation enough for regression testing, or do you recommend a mix with some common UI functional tests?
Exactly my point. I think Maros, he read my mind earlier. Or I read his question subconsciously earlier. But yeah, it's time to rethink a complete test strategy approach, right? Or a test planning approach. There's no more the concept of this is my functional test, this is my regression test, this is my progression test. You have to think about how can you get best value from your automation and get the feedback faster. If you're going to have a nightly run or a weekend run of your test automation, you have lost the opportunity of giving early feedback to the developers when they made a change on Monday, which caused a product functionality to break, right? So you want to run your test fast and as often as you can. And with that, just run everything together. Developers don't really have smoke sanity regression, right? Why should functional testing have smoke sanity regression? Run your test fast. You just say, these are my automated tests. That's it.
Nice. So this next question you probably get asked a lot, and a lot of people probably don't know you can do it. I think you can. Can I give the tool an image to test against the current release, an image from an XD or something like that?
Absolutely. There are multiple ways how you can import your wireframes or your designs into Applitools, set it as a baseline, and compare your product if it is conforming to that. So Lydia, please reach out to us or get onto the booth, and we'll be happy to show you a demo of how that could work.
Nice. Next question is, how can AI technology work at the lower level? I don't know if you probably can't show us, but do you have any examples maybe beyond the UI?
So lower levels AI technology, well, there's some examples, right? A simple ones is GitHub Copilot, for example. That leverages AI that can tell you how to write code or fix code without doing anything else, right? And it could be product code, it could be test code. That could be one example of how to do that. There are also various different tools, especially in case of, I know I'm associated with one open source product for API testing. It doesn't leverage AI, but it has interesting insights how it can generate tests for your APIs, your open API specs, and create contract tests out of the box for you without you having to write a single line of code. So AI just by itself at all levels, you have to think about it, right? Is it really practical? Is it feasible? Is it required as well? Because with every tool, every technology, you are definitely incurring a cost, a technical cost, a implementation cost, maintenance cost. You have to see what is going to give you the best value for money.
Absolutely. And Anand, probably time for just one last quick question. Do these algorithms come out of the box with Applitools?
Yes, they do. There are these 4 algorithms that come out of the box. And by out of the box, I pretty much mean you can sign up for a free Applitools license right now, integrate it with your automation framework, and start seeing value of visual AI validation in your automation framework today itself. You don't need any special training for these algorithms. These are pre-trained algorithms.
Awesome. And I guess before we go and on, any parting words of wisdom you want to leave future of testing?
Parting words of wisdom. Well, you have to think with an open mind. You cannot just put the same box in a new wrapper and say, this is going to work for me. You have to change your mindset. You have to evolve your mindset. See what is happening out in the world. Learn technology, learn tools, and see how they can give you best value for what work you are doing. That is what I would say.
Awesome. Thanks again, Anand, for sharing a future of testing and kicking it off right with this awesome keynote. Really appreciate you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everyone. Thanks again for all your interaction as well. I want to give a shout out to all the attendees as well. Thank you for all your chats. Very nice. And all your questions. We really want to make it as interactive as possible. And if you haven't seen Applitools before, you definitely want to check it out. And you could book a demo and see it in action. I always say seeing is believing, but definitely check it out for yourself. They just popped out a schedule now button. So if you want to actually try what you've seen Anand do and what you're going to see throughout the event, and you haven't checked out Applitools yet, I've been using it since 2015. So to me, it seems like everyone knows it, but I don't think everyone does know about it. And I know there's a lot of new features here as well that I haven't seen in action. So definitely give it a try yourself, schedule a demo, and we'd love to know your thoughts once you do. And thank you everyone for all your chats or interactions and help kick off the day. And that's going to be hosted by Dave, is going to be co-hosting that one. But Denali, really great stuff. So definitely check that out. And I'll see you all there as well. Cheers.